This is gonna be horrible. This is such a bad idea. This is a horrible idea. This is a really short live stream. I don't know why I'm doing this live, but I got like the fourth cold of the season because I work with kids, and when you work with kids, like you get a cold. It's like there's this weird thing that kids do. When you work with kids, your immune system it operates like a Windows machine. I don't know if they've changed Windows machines since I have worked with Windows machines. You know how Windows machines, it's like, oh, I need to use my Windows machine. I'm going to do a presentation. And all of a sudden, like the presentation like stops and freezes because it needs to like download an update. And that's what happens when you work with kids. It's like your immune system is constantly downloading these like new files, and it's got to reboot right in the middle of the freaking presentation. So I'm right in the middle of freaking presentation, and I'm getting this cold. Like I feel it coming on. I don't know if I'm gonna have to go through it all the way, but like you can feel it coming on. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? But this weekend I'm going up to Seattle. There's this Megan Murphy event, and she's gonna like speak at the Seattle Public Library, which is actually really good news. I didn't cover this anywhere, maybe on social media or on my Twitter. I covered this, that Megan Murphy, who's this Vancouver-based feminist, and probably in the Rush Limbaugh sense, so I don't really mean this like in the super horrible sense that like you might take it to mean, but like Megan Murphy's like kind of a classic like 90s feminazi, you know? Like no offense, like she's kind of like that. That's her persona, at least. That's like the arguments that she makes. And I'm just saying like that's what Rush Limbaugh would call her. I'm not calling her that. I'm just saying, you know, she's like a feminazi kind of. And but the thing is, the weird thing about the feminazis is that they became cool because they had even stranger enemies than they are, right? Which is the whole radical trans rights thing. So the radical trans rights thing is like going around trying to cancel Megan Murphy, and they show up to her events and they act like idiots and numbskulls, and they stir the pot, and they get all these like well-meaning progressive people to show up to her events and just scream and chant like non-salacious, nonsensical like taglines about how trans rights are human rights, but nobody ever like actually defines like what is a trans right and how is it distinct from a human right, and is it like different, is it a special right, does that mean like it's more right or less right? I don't know. But anyway, so these people show up to Megan Murphy's events, and it's great press for her, but it's kind of dangerous. And I spoke with Ben, alias GNC Centric, with a few weeks ago with my interview with her. So I'm going to go up to Seattle, and I'm going to cover her event. And I'll be there Friday night and then Saturday and then probably Sunday. So there might be something happening, but I can't promise anything. But there might be like a meetup. But I probably shouldn't say this online. I have this inkling that Megan Murphy is a lush, and I am not a lush. So I might be a little bit by Sunday. I might feel a little bit awful and not want to be like vocal and like social anymore. So I don't know. I can't promise anything. Anyway, so there's this event happening, and I got my film crew all lined up, and we're gonna go up there and we're gonna like watch what happens if anything happens, and like we're gonna go to the like little protest, because there's a protest that starts somewhere and then marches over to the Seattle Public Library, which I was trying to say before we got distracted, because this is a live stream. You try to do it before you criticize me, that the Seattle Public Library actually was protested, like petitioned. Let's say it's like keyboard warrior protest. It's like, oh, we're going to go over to change.org and like say all these nasty things about this person that we don't want talking anymore, right? And so they like keyboard warrior over to like change.org, and like they made a petition to like have Megan Murphy shut down from the Seattle Public Library thing. But good news, Seattle Public Library, the guy in charge of it, he's like, no, we're going to let her talk, you know. We're going to let her talk, because like our value, though we care about people, we care about marginalized people, our value is that argument wins, talking wins, which is an excellent thing. It's an excellent thing no matter where you are, but especially in Seattle. There's like this bastion, like there's this little tiny, like one of those things that looks like a phallus that stands on the edge of the sea. It's called a lighthouse. This little lighthouse of free speech hope is just like shining its light. And so Megan Murphy's going to be there. She's allowed to be there. They didn't cancel the appointment, but still there's these people who are like, they're planning a protest. It goes from one place, and they're going to march over there, and they're probably going to have signs. But I'm going to be covering that. I'm not really interested necessarily in like doing like the whole gonzo journalism thing where you stand on the road and like you try to like attract a milkshake to your head to get a really big windfall of GoFundMe money. That's a reference to a friend of mine that if you get, you get. If you don't, you don't. It doesn't matter. And if you are that person, I mean it. But anyways, I'm not the guy that like goes on the street and like tries to like engage with the actual protest. I want to hear the ideas and then like kind of subtly like say, okay, this is what the people are screaming about, but they're not really making sense. Let's find the people that are making sense. But anyways, I have like a little film crew that's probably strong enough to like galvanize me so I can go out there and like glean some information from these people and ask them questions, maybe do a little sit down with Megan Murphy. I really like her. You know, I think I thoroughly disagree with her, pretty much thoroughly disagree with her, but completely get along with her. And if there's anything that I can do, like in my life, is to get along with people that I disagree with and model that, like show how you can do that, because that's it's not a lost art form, but I don't think we see enough of that, like with all this media stuff. I think we see people who don't like each other not getting along, and that's what drives entertainment. I want to see people who like each other disagree, which is kind of it's one step up from disliking each other. But I don't know, for whatever reason, we're in this place where disagreement means dislike. And that might be like the fallout from the whole social media thing, where we've distilled engagement into likes and dislikes and I agree or I don't agree, that whole binary thing that Reddit and that Facebook kind of positioned ourselves in. Anyways, I don't know if that was a bad idea. I was just sitting on my couch and I had the idea to play with this application. And then I saw a bunch of notifications, but I don't see them anymore. So maybe you guys are all zonked out. I can't control this. This is a smartphone, vertical video, classic evergreen thing. Hope you guys are great. I will be in Seattle. What else do I have to say? I don't have anything else to say. What did you guys think about the video that I released earlier with Megan Murphy? I did want to talk about that a little bit. So I did this video earlier today. It's like the classic, like barely 8 seconds more than 10 minutes, like YouTube video. It's like a classic, like YouTube video. Hold on, like let's get a little bit. Oh no, let's get a little bit more light in here. But like I showed footage of Melanie Morgan, who is this representative in Washington State, the 29th district, and she propositions or proposes or reads her bill. She argues for her bill about hair discrimination, and it's kind of ridiculous on the face of it that we need to litigate hair, right? But, you know, engaging with the material and listening to the critics, listening to the pushback of that, there is some level of discussion to be going around about the way in which specifically African American women are discriminated against or have been discriminated against or put a little bit more attention or feel a little bit more pressure about their hair in a work environment. So there is a reasonable position. There is a reasonable position to hold and to promulgate. Unfortunately, I didn't really get into that. I didn't really delve into that, but because I'm kind of trying to build an argument about what's happening in the legislature, specifically through the voting in of Melanie Morgan. She has very entrenched, I would say, racist views, and even in the footage that I've shown in today's video, she calls she kind of drops these things about white women getting ahead, and like there's this undercurrent of envy or jealousy, depending on what you want to think of it, of the white people, right? And I don't think that is the correct way to go about legislating, putting in the law anti-discriminatory practices. You don't overcorrect, and I feel that her modus operandi is in and of itself an overcorrection. And I think that the only reason she's in power is because she capitalized on a Me Too movement where some female staffers complained about the current or the previous legislature from the 29th district, and the Democrat Party completely bailed on him, and Melanie came in and she got all of the funding, and so she's kind of there on a trial run. And I think that the game is set up, and I think she's playing the game correctly, just not wisely. The game is set up to play grievances. The game is set up to play the Democratic game, which is to legislate more and more anti-discrimination stuff, or to legislate more and more government that will go in and solve the problems. Because, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me that at least on the Washington, legislative level, and I'm coming from Evergreen, so I saw it at Evergreen, is that the Democrats want administration. They think that administration will solve the problem. And George Bridges, that's his entire tactic. Like, they just lost Evergreen State College just lost their vice president of equity and inclusion. And instead of dissolving equity and inclusion or inclusive excellence and student success, instead of dissolving that program, they hired an intern, and George Bridges is now paying thousands and thousands of dollars for a consultant to come in and tell him who to hire. Right? So George Bridges constantly expands his administration. And I really think that the only reason he's still in power is because he mimics how Governor Inslee runs the government, and how and Inslee is part of the Democratic machine. Now, whether or not, I'm not saying I disagree with that. I think that the Democrats see a problem, they create a bureaucracy to solve that problem. I think that is what I perceive is the way that they operate. So Melanie Morgan comes in. She doesn't have a lot of strength with policy. She understands intuitively that she can run this race thing. So how does she get entrenched into the party? By constantly running this grievance thing about her race. And that's great for the Democrats, because the part that I left out of the video, because I don't actually want to do a lot of stuff on race, and I don't want to be like a channel that invites a lot of racist comments or invites a lot of race war stuff. But what she did was she brought like 20 people to that meeting, and they all had personal stories to tell about being black women in the workplace. Like you had legislatures there, you had people that work in government there, you had this, it was really fascinating, but I cut it out because of the fallout, right? Because I don't want to, I think that there's a way to solve the issue, and the way to solve the issue isn't to completely expose the extreme of the issue. So I held back, but it's there if you follow the link. But I think that she's playing a game. She's bringing in more voters. She's initiating more voter engagement. She's showing people that the Democrat Party will work for them if they show up to these council meetings and state their case. So she's hedging her position within the government. So I think that she's actually intuitively playing the right game, but at the same time, the arguments suck. I totally disagree with legislating this stuff. I really have a problem with legislating this stuff. And if you look in the series of what I'm doing, it's not just about the hair bill. It's not just about women of color getting power. It's not about that. I want diversity. I actually want as many people at the table as possible. I want that. But I want them to be performing, like, I want the best of those people. And Melanie Morgan, I don't think she's got a lot of talent. She doesn't have a lot of speaking power. She's got a lot of passion. She's got a lot of, I wouldn't call it sincerity, but she's really investing. So I understand, I want to give her props for engaging with government and playing the game. But at the same time, if you look at the Office of Equity stuff, that's the same exact crap that drove Evergreen into the ground. It's absolutely poisonous ideology. And the thing is that, unfortunately, that ideology makes fools of people, right? So when I go and I critique the ideology, I'm showing people in the state of being a fool because of the ideology. And I don't know. I want to talk about, like, I'm not critiquing the individuals. I'm not critiquing the fact that maybe or maybe not, but like the feedback that I've got is that people who are black have a certain hair, and their hair causes them stress, and they get a lot of criticism because of that, right? I don't know how to solve that. I mean, I do know how to solve that. You just make people relax, and legislation doesn't make people relax, because what makes legislation matter is enforcement. And once you get these people in charge who make these very ambiguous claims to equity and to justice and stuff, and then they go through every little bit of human experience, and they figure out a way to make the correct opinion or the correct behavior enforceable, right? And that is a slippery slope. And I don't know if a slippery slope is a bad argument. People say it's a bad argument, but there is a slope. There's a cliff that we can fall off. And I don't think it's a bad argument to point that out. So I didn't know how to state that in the episode. And so that's kind of something that I wanted to like retract or give more space to people that have that experience to speak and to not be vilified, because it seems silly, but it might be serious. I think the solution itself should be taken seriously, because it's a bad solution, which would be equity, diversity, equalize opportunities, and for small businesses to open small businesses up to suits, discrimination suits, because they have a code of conduct. And while she said that there are exceptions for safety and other things, that can be gamed. You always got to think about how it can be gamed. Or at least that's how I run the numbers. Not that I'm the best of them. Anyways, Lily Lux says the greatest minority is the individual. I totally agree. And how do you preserve that? How do you have a collective of individuals? How do you herd the cats? I don't know. I really do think that we need to get more engaged. I really do think that the next step for this, and I said this on my live stream last week, is that if you're concerned about this stuff, listen to those boring things, show up to the meetings, watch those long-ass bureaucratic meetings. The quote that I came up with is that the reason that, how's it go? The only thing that it takes for evil to prevail is for good people to avoid pointless, endless bureaucratic meetings to keep the bad ideas at bay, right? So we really need to galvanize yourself, and that's what I'm thinking with this legislative stuff, is to like do these long form videos that will turn off a lot of people with enough salacious stuff that they will actually sit down and get inoculated to the bureaucracy, get inoculated to showing up to these meetings and just being a body in the room and saying the words, like saying those, like honing a 60-second rebuttal or a 60-second critique of this ideology, presenting that to the legislature, and just showing up. We really need to show up. We need to be present, because for whatever reason, whoever's in charge is the person that can weather that level of discourse. Anyways, crap. I'm being asked what I want for dinner. We're gonna have takeout. I should get going. Let's look at this awesome. Our Father in the Green sent me a live chat. It says, I do wonder how many bread tubers like Vosh will say SJWs are annoying, but it's all right-wing hyperbole, or it's all just Twitter. They don't care. You know what? I don't understand. I don't know how big of an effect I have. I don't know how big of a footprint I have. I know that I'm not a no fish, but I'm still a small fish. So I don't know like all these really big YouTubers. I don't know all these big these media people. I know that today some woman said on Twitter that hating men is not a meme, it's a lifestyle, right? She wrote that on Twitter. Hating men is not a meme, it's a lifestyle, and she got 103,000 upvotes, 103,000 likes for saying that hating men is not a meme, it's a lifestyle. And if I was in a certain frame of mind, I would have felt really bad about that, but I didn't feel bad about that. I ignored those likes. So there is a power. There's an audience who will possibly be galvanized by resentment alone. And what we really need to do is model the opposite of resentment. And mockery comes into that, and making fun of things, and harsh criticism. It's all in play, but what we really need to focus on is smart, articulate argument where we take the higher ground, because what we need is more higher ground, right? And by higher ground, I mean the same thing that I mean when I deal with I had a very rowdy group of kids today. They were so chaotic, and I absorbed that energy. That's probably why I'm feeling sick now, because I absorbed all that chaos, and I just chilled out, and I interacted with each one of those chaotic kids individually, and I just slowly, like slowly, one by one, I ratcheted down the chaos of that group of kids, but it took me like really not reacting to that, taking the higher ground, being steady, being calm, connecting with people's individuality, connecting people as individuals, kind of allowing the badness and the cringe of the audience to be seen and like calling it out, but not maintaining that pitch. Because what I see the spiral is with the Evergreen stuff is that people allowed that pitch of interaction to get way out of hand. And the only way, one of the ways to do that is to really think things through and slow things down. So that's what I really want us to do. That's what I hope to encourage people to do. But at the same time, people come to my channel for that stuff. So I will continue to interact with it and put it out there, but try to give like a reasonable argument after that. So I will be at this Megan Murphy thing. Maybe there'll be some drama, maybe not. We'll see. We'll see. Anyways, I have to go. This is great. Sorry about the vertical video. This is shot on my phone. This is a complete experiment. Wait, can I do this? Here, we'll do a live cat video. Look at her. I was watching Cowboy Bebop, which is an excellent little anime. And there's Bijou. She likes to sit on the little step stool next to the heater. That's her digs right now when she's not napping on the couch. Anyways, you guys have a good night. I'll see you around. I look forward to reading all these comments and seeing what came out of my mouth this time. It's always a great thing. I'm gonna press this X. Let's see what happens. And